Hey there.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. What's going on?
Man, nothing much and a lot of much at the same time.
A lot of much.
A
A
lot of
lot of much.
much.
Yes,
A lot of
that's the
much.
whole truth. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how about you?
I'm good. It's been an interesting week, but God is good. God is good.
Amen.
Yes, God is good.
Well, I
Well,
guess should we bring the people in?
yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, I am Charity Lane.
And I'm Kara. Together, we are Boulevard
Yes.
Lane.
Amen.
Yes.
And we're gonna continue our conversation about boundaries
Absolutely.
and all the things that it entails. Not just boundaries that we set, but boundaries that other people set with us
Yes,
and what that looks like.
absolutely. Let's talk about it. I really think that setting boundaries or just boundaries in general is not necessarily a conversation that happens a lot. And
Mm,
for people who did not grow up with any like example of setting boundaries or even healthy boundaries, this may have been overlooked in your life. You probably just didn't do it because somebody told you, well, I wouldn't do that because they had me messed up. You probably heard that too many times and you was like, I don't want nobody to say that to me no more, or whatever that is. But
mhm.
like taking a healthy step to be healthy for yourself and for the people around you by setting boundaries is important. Very important. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Last week we kind of just talked about it in general of yeah. But this time I want to dig into like matter of fact things about boundaries and how necessary they are.
Yeah, for sure. And when you say like matter of factly, like specific examples
Yes.
of when, gotcha.
Mhm. I say let's go there because honestly,
Do it.
um I think that I had an idea of boundaries. I knew that I needed boundaries, but I don't think I ever took it as serious because I didn't think that the boundaries that I had was a bad thing or that they were harmful. But I noticed that the season has changed for me. And
Mm-hmm.
um, what I was once okay with, I'm not okay with anymore.
Yeah.
Like it isn't serving a purpose for me. It's actually causing problems in ways I didn't understand. And I'm sure God is like, knock, knock, knock. Because some of this stuff don't come up until God say change it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't see it like that. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
showing me. Because I really didn't. But I'm like, having boundaries was not a foreign word or concept prior, but I don't think I was ready at that time to set
Gotcha.
certain boundaries. Yeah. So that's why I say just, be more factual about what boundaries or what a boundary is, um, and how we can apply it because I'm learning. But I say, why not take, other people on the journey that may need to hear it in a more authentic way? So why?
Yeah, for sure. And as you were talking, I was listening, but I had got, we see things in pictures all the time.
Always.
And I was seeing when you said in this season, your boundaries have changed. And I even think about just like growing up, like the stages of just life. Like when you're a baby, for the most part, you get put in a playpen or you get your parents or your guardians or whoever's taking care of you put up gates and they put up or they put pillows like they put you on the couch and they surround you with like they create these boundaries to keep you safe. And then as you learn to walk, they start putting up baby gates because they're like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
you need some more boundaries, you can move a little bit more. And then
Mhm.
as you
Well,
become an adolescent, like your mom or your dad or whoever, like I said, guardians, they might, like, you can't drive obviously, but they might let you go around in the neighborhood to your friend's house. Like they kind of let you have a little bit more space, and then like I said, you start driving, you start getting into high school and college and things like that. Then, especially if you go away or if you don't go to school, but you just become an adult, move out, whatever. Even if you stay home, like your parents usually or whoever usually kind of give you a little bit more freedom. And it's almost like at each stage you have more freedom. But
Mm.
looking back on it, like being older now, is like I feel like the more freedom you have, the more boundaries you need,
Oh, yes.
if
Oh,
that makes
God.
sense.
That's perfect. Mm.
Because it's almost like because you have the freedom to do whatever, especially now, like we grown, we can do whatever we quote want.
True.
But it's like, it's not only that we need more boundaries, it's difficult because we can do. Like for example, I got the money, I can go get me a veggie burger from Shake Shack because
Mm-hmm.
they veggie burgers be fire. This ain't a plug for them. I'm not getting paid for this, but but it's good. But God said, watch what you eat. God said, pay attention to. So it's like I have the freedom to do it. But now, when I pass that exit on the way to my house, I have to di- display self control and put a boundary up, not just physically and for my health, but also financially. Like your mama, you say you got food. I got food at home. You don't need to stop and get you a burger, girl. If you don't go home and eat that food you got at home, it's like it's harder to set those back. Well, at least other people, they may just be like, "Yes, Lord, I will do it," and it's great. For me, I say yes, Lord, but it ain't always easy for me. But I think that's the picture that I saw, like when you said in this season, because there's certain seasons where you can kind of do some things, and then like for this season, for me specifically, like people have invited me out to do things and be a part of things, and it's like I really feel like God is calling me to a time of consecration, and not just like prayer and fasting, but just getting with Him and getting insight and being prepared, allowing Him to prepare me for whatever's next, whether that's relationship, whether that's career moves, whether that's business moves, like whatever, but getting insight and getting that knowledge, and just also being able to spend time with the Lord and just bask in His presence and all those things is like, I feel like He's calling me to Himself, which makes me feel so special and so loved. Like you want to be with me. You want to, for me to be in your presence. You want to commune with me. And so for me, that means boundaries. Like, nah, I can't go out this weekend. No, I can't join that, group, even though I'm sure it's edifying. Yeah, it could be edifying and it could be uplifting and all those things. But, you think of Jesus, like, yes, he fellowshipped with his disciples, and, when he went home and to Nazareth, and, um, he communed with his people there or whatever. But there was a lot of times where it said he went away. He
Mm.
went to pray. He went by himself. He
Mm.
did all those things. And then when you realize he did those things and then he came back and he healing people and he doing it, it's like, so it's like in those times of us like being with God, that's where we get our power. That's where we get our strength.
Mm.
And so
That was a bad.
being able to be confident in the boundaries. And that was another thing. And I'm a shush. Um, But like, I'm
Mm.
like, Lord, help me to like have the boundaries, that have the courage to have boundaries with people like they have with me, or not even just with me, but that they have. It's like people be quick to tell you no, and they don't care too much about it. They care
Mhm.
less about it. And it's like for people like us, it's like I'm gonna say no, but it pains me to say no. And I'm like, Lord, give me the courage to say no with confidence.
Mhm.
to say not yet, or not now, or not even no, but just not today. Like let's get
Mhm.
together, but just not today. Let's try again in a couple of weeks when I have some more free time. If I'm able to, or if we're able to. But I'm like, people don't ever have a problem putting up boundaries with me or with others. But it's like when I want to put up a boundary, it's like it's either hard for me to accept or me to put the boundary up or the other person receiving the boundary or accepting the boundary that I've put up. And so um I seen this quote earlier and I hope I don't butcher it and I don't know who it was from, but I seen it on the handy dandy Pinterest. It said instead of trying to um or it was like I'm trying to instead of trying to like live better, let me focus or instead of focusing on like living better, it's like I'm focused on living more like Jesus. I know I butchered that whole thing, but it was like we were so caught up in like I just gotta be better and I want to be better and it's like I just want to like if we just focus on how Jesus lived and we mimic him, we're going to live better because we're living like we're literally being followers of Jesus. Not and followers it doesn't just mean belief. Followers meaning if he go left, I go left. If he go right, I go right. If he go straight, I go straight. If he stops, I stop because I'm following him. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like that scene in Forrest Gump where they was all the people was running behind him and he kept getting like a massive following and then he finally stopped and was like, yeah, I'm all done. And they just like, but they was following him that whole time. Wherever he went through the canyons and through all these different places, they was following him. And when he stopped, they stopped. And it's like I think we get followers and belief mixed up. Like you can believe in somebody, but you don't follow them and
Mm.
mimic their ways. I know that's like completely off boundaries, but anyway, those are my thoughts. Thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Those are.
You didn't have to stop so abruptly. You could have kept going. No, that's fine. I'm trying to remember one of the things that you said. It made me think about when you were saying that, like, Jesus went away to pray and, to have his alone time with God. And I was like, and that's a boundary. That is a boundary. That's one we can say Jesus did not allow everybody everywhere.
Mhm.
He just did.
Even within his disciple group,
That's
there were a lot of times where it was Peter, James, and John when they were at your boy's house, Jairus, and he was like it was just them when they went to the Mount of Transfiguration. You know, it was Peter, James, and John when he was in the garden. He was like, "Hey, I need y'all. I need my homies to come with me," and that doesn't mean he didn't love the other nine.
mm-hmm.
It was just like there was a boundary set, like, okay, y'all, we good, but here's a boundary. And even like you said, when he went away, even like it was right after he had did the miracle with the fish and the loaves, and he was about to walk on water. He told them to go ahead instead of being like, oh yeah, y'all can come with me. It's like, no, y'all go ahead, go. Let me go handle what I need to handle with the Father, or even just like resting. Like I done did a whole lot of teaching. We done fed people. It's been a long day. I've peopled enough. I need some space. Instead of being on a boat with 12 men. It's like, let me go ahead and y'all go ahead. I'm gonna catch up with y'all later. Like you said, that was a boundary. Like I'm starting to realize, and I know this is like a duh comment, but if we just really look at the life, it really was a simple life.
Yeah.
It wasn't complicated. He
No.
said, I do what the Father tells me to do. I say what the Father tells me to say. And he just did it. His life was just, I'm not saying wasn't complicated. Like the cross was very complicated. But I'm saying as far as like difficulty, like
Mm.
it wasn't, or not, or simplistic, more so saying like complex as far as like understanding. It's like, no, just if we just do what the Father says do and we say what he says, like, not saying we gonna go through things
Oh,
because in this
God.
world there will be trouble. Jesus experienced loss. He experienced grief. Even though he rose him back up, but he still experienced people talking about him, people clowning him, people betraying him. He straight died like a horrible, gruesome death. Like So Jesus went through some things. He was human, all the things. I'm sure trying to figure out how to be him and be knowing his destiny and knowing what he was here to do, but also be in the present. So I'm not saying that wasn't complex, but I'm saying the actual like what we're on this earth to do is not complicated. We as humans make things complicated. Like I said, just full transparency. God dealt with me about my diet, and not that I eat horribly, but he was just like, you need to step it up a notch. And I'm still out here at Shake Shack getting veggie burgers. Man, that veggie
Mhm.
burger, it's a strong cold, let me tell you. But it's anyway, I'm delivered. Um, but I was like, okay, Lord, this weekend I'm gonna do my juice detox on this is that. And it was like, but I was like, but when you ask me for stuff, you may do it right away. Why don't you think when I tell you to do something, I want you to do it right away? I was like, sheesh. Like, so Lord, I had to repent. I'm like, Lord, okay, let me get right. But it was a simple thing. He didn't tell me to cross the ocean and do it. Just watch what you eating. Just be more conscious of your diet. Step it up a notch. Like you ain't doing bad, but you can be doing better. You have the money. It ain't like you like Lord I only got $5, so all I can afford is noodles. Like you can afford to get you some greens and some salads and vegetables.
Mhm.
And so it was like I had to again going back to that boundaries. I had to set a boundary with me. I had to set a financial boundary. You now about to be
Mhm.
spending money on going out to eat and doing even if you're getting quote healthy food, even if you go get a salad from somewhere, you paying $10, $12 for a salad and some chips. Well, you could just make your own salads at home. So I had to set a financial boundary. I had to set, you know, a health boundary. Okay, even though this is not necessarily terrible, but could I have made something more healthy at home, healthier at home? Yeah, I could have. Could I have drank water instead of drinking, this juice all day? Could I have done something to be more hydrated? Whatever it is. But it's like setting those boundaries with yourself can be hard, especially when, like I said, more freedom. The more freedom we have, the more boundaries we need.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you just think about it in society. We have stop signs and stoplights for a reason. They didn't have that in the, you know, 1700s. And, it's like they didn't have cars, or at least modern like we do now. Like most of it was buggies and carriages. I don't know when the first car was actually invented, but if there were some in the 1700s, it still wasn't like now, where it's like, okay, now we got cars. Okay, now we're gonna. They realize at some point, okay, more and more cars are starting to be people getting rid of their horses and buggies. Okay, now we got to create a stop sign. Okay, now we have to create. Shout out to the melanated person who created that a stoplight. You know, because of more freedom. Same thing with airplanes. Shout out to the people who, we are praying for the tragedy this has happened and all that. But like in the plane, like we got more freedom, but now we gotta have, the control towers because now we gotta have boundaries on okay, everybody flying at one time. We gotta monitor this. It's like, yeah, same thing. You give your child the keys, okay, but you can't drive to Miami. Bring your butt home by 11 o'clock or by whatever the curfew is. Boundaries. Like you got more freedom, but with that comes if you're gonna drive it, put gas in a car. You got a responsibility. I expect you to be home at a certain time. I expect you to bring the vehicle back in the condition that you took it in. All the things. And
Yeah.
so just thinking about all those things.
Hmm. That's actually real, though. The more freedom we have, the more discipline we have to have, which requires us to have those boundaries in place so that we aren't just out here doing all or whatever we think we can. And we're not supposed to be doing that. So,
I
no.
believe was it Paul who said all things that are everything is permissible, but everything is not good or something like that. I might have gotten that wrong or said it wrong, but it was something to that effect of like, just because you can do it, don't mean you should. The 2025 version.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward. That's where it is. First Corinthians 10:23. He kind of says it twice in First Corinthians. But all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All
Yeah.
things are lawful for me, but not all things edify. And
Yeah, even quote godly things. If you in a life group, and yeah, that's a godly thing. But then in the life group, everybody gossiping and
no,
everybody talking about everybody.
that's
It's
not how
like, yeah,
that
you in a life group, but is it? And I'm not saying at my church. I'm just saying, just in
yeah.
general. I'm just using it as an example. So I don't want nobody to be listening, be like, I'm talking about people that you know. I'm just saying, like, yeah, that's a godly thing. And it's God ordained to, fellowship with one another and do all those things. But if you just go sit there and gossip and talk about people the whole time,
I got to go. I'm out of here.
then that ain't really helpful or
I'm
edifying.
out of here. I'm out of here. Not finna gather for a life group full of sin. I'm not doing that.
Right. Or
Ah,
even your time. I'm not
yeah.
calling nobody out. I'm not naming names, but you in 5 different ministries. Like,
Oh my goodness.
you know, man.
Don't be counting my ministries.
I see. I wasn't even. I didn't even say you. I just said I wasn't naming names.
Oh, it was evident.
But
Yeah.
I wasn't naming names.
No,
I could have
that's
been
real.
talking about myself. What I'm saying is like
It
those
is
things are
what it
good and
is.
it's helpful, and I'm sure your work and service is appreciated. But is that helpful for you? Is that is that healthy even for you as far as like having a physical toll and an emotional toll? Just being a part of so many different things and making sure you're getting proper rest. You still work full time and have other responsibilities outside of work.
Legit. But since you're going there, I said I was gonna go there personally to help somebody else. I did say that, so why not? But you're right. Is it helpful? It's helpful to the ministry. It's not helpful to my body and to my mind. It's not. It is work. We're not sitting around discussing Bible verses and being fed in that manner on the teams that I'm on. Nothing against it. We just don't, that's not how we're set up. We got, I don't know how deep I want to go into this. I'm being careful. But some of it is physical work. So who got time? If you whipping up the food, I was gonna say whipping up the work, that was gonna get me in trouble. If you
Uh-oh.
making the food, I'm being silly. If you're making the food or preparing culinary basically food,
Mhm.
um then most likely you're not going to sit down and start talking Bible. Now you may have, certain conversations, but that's not the gist of why you guys came together. Or setting up the church, or making sure we set up for a different day or what have you, whatever the event is. You just won't have those kind of moments all the time. It's just not set up for that. And so this season has taught me that, oh, I said yes to a lot of things. Now, how I got in these groups, don't ask me, mind your business. But
Mm,
I'm just saying, I could tell that story. It's a very light one, but no, no, it's okay. Um,
way to set a boundary.
but yeah, when you say yes to things, you also have to learn to say no. So no matter if it's ministry or if it's work or, if it's personal or what have you, you have to start setting boundaries, especially it starts with yourself. So if you know that you have a certain lifestyle that God is, putting on your heart to create for yourself because it honors him, um, then you have to do that. You can't get by. You have to do that because it's gonna keep knocking at your door. And I say that in a way of saying
Mhm.
like it's not just church because yes, that tells me how many times I'm gonna be at church. Okay. Am I in five? Maybe I'm in five. I'm over here counting. Is it really five? Wait a minute. It's 4. I may be missing one for real, but for right now, it's 4. But even with that, I do things outside of church. It's another choir that I'm a part of. And so normally every single day, I'm doing something to some degree outside of me working an 8-hour job, sometimes 10. Um, yeah, there are a lot of things that I'm doing. And so when I gave my yeses, I didn't know the weight of my yeses. I did not know that I would be so busy. I didn't perceive it at all.
Mm.
I thought it was an inquiry per se. So I say to the same. Even though I gave my yes, that means that sometimes when something is needed, maybe I can't come. But knowing me, I got free time. I don't perceive burnout or um, if I'm going to need something. I'll just say it like that. So I say that to say, yes, I'm a busy woman. I realized how busy I was in December and I said, oh no, oh no, I can't do that again. Because some of the things that I have on my to do list has nothing to do with the groups that I'm in or the choirs that I'm in. It has nothing to do with it, but it still honors what God told me. And when those things start to collide, something has to go. And so, yeah,
Mhm.
creating boundaries, it honors God because you're able to then prioritize what's important in that season or whatever season you're in. Um, but it honors you
Yeah.
first. You don't want to run over yourself. And I don't like the word run over. I don't like that term rather. I don't like it. But you don't want to forget yourself. And so I may say that often, like, don't forget you, because the truth is, we put ourselves last a lot of the times because we think of all the things we need to do. But it's like, what can I do for myself first that makes me good for somebody else? Because the more you pour out, the less you have in your cup. Most
Yeah.
people aren't
You
coming
have
to
to
fill your
have to
cup.
be refilled.
Yeah, you got to be refilled. And people always say, but you got to spend time with God. That is absolutely true. But I don't know what makes people think that you don't. God won't always, God will fill your cup. Let me make that very
Right.
clear. But when it comes to how we pour, we have to manage that ourselves. We are not babies. Well, some people may be babies in Christ, but God still requires for us to be responsible within the limitations that He's given us. Because some things He's given us personally on top of His word, and we have to honor that. He's like, I ain't tell you to do that. What you over there doing that for? Yes, it's depleting you. I didn't tell you to do it. Get your butt from over there. We got to just
Hmm.
be real about it. It's not on God to just keep refilling the cup. It's on you to make the decisions. Again, God will fill that cup. But we got to make sure that we're in places where He's given us the grace for it and not just doing stuff.
And when the grace is gone, and
Man,
yeah, and I love everything that you just said. And when the grace is gone, that's when cracks happen.
every single time.
And so God can be refilling it, but if there's holes in the cup or the vessel or whatever, because there's no, the grace is gone, the grace kind of holds it together and holds you together and holds you up when you're tired and when it's gone. It's almost kind of, I think about like a dam or
Man,
something, and it's like, yeah, it's holding it together, but then one little thing here, and it's like water spewing out here, water spewing out here, and eventually it's just going, uh like you said, you don't like that phrase, but like all that water, all that pressure is gonna run over you.
mm-hmm.
And I've experienced that. I was in a situation or serving in a capacity, and Lord was prompting me to make a shift. And I stayed for 2 more years, not one, not 6 months, 2 more years.
Mm.
And it cost me.
It
And
hurt.
and thank God that some of it God has redeemed. But
Amen.
some of it just cost me, man. I had to just take that L and chuck it up.
Man. Ooh wee. Don't I know it?
So don't do that.
No, no, no.
Don't be like me. He tells you to go,
No, no,
go.
no, no.
Like even I mean that even can save your life because that actually happened
Man.
to my friend's husband. God had told him to leave his job, and it wasn't even I want to say maybe 6 months. I might not even been 6 months later. It was I believe it was less than a year. He had left his job, and there was a shooting at his job.
Ooh wee.
And one of his coworkers, I want to say she ended up passing away, but it was like some random person came in and started shooting. Let's say, and I think he might have been a manager. So it's like, say he was there, he could have been injured, he could have been taken out.
Mm-hmm.
And so even that, like, he was like, yeah, if I wouldn't have left when the Lord told me to leave, could have been me on that floor, getting lowered into the ground.
My God.
And so, like,
Yeah.
when God tell us to do
Gracious.
stuff, He tells, and even I was on the phone with my grandma earlier, and I was trying to help her do something on her phone, per usual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I didn't, she's a different type of phone. So I had to like kind of Google the instructions. So I was like, okay, go to this. It says go to that. Well, I'm seeing this. I said, okay, but go to this. Do you see that? But yeah, but I just pressed this. No, if I'm, no, listen, Linda, listen. Dude, like in that moment, I said, "Oh Lord, thank you for this lesson." Because I'm like, I'm literally telling her step by step what to do, and she up here, well, I was gonna press this because she thought that might be what it was for, and I'm like, oh God, she's me, I am her.
Mm-hmm.
God be telling us to do stuff, and be like, well, I'm gonna just go ahead and no, this is not what I told you to do.
Ooh wee.
He's so good. I'm like, Lord, what did I say earlier? I'm like, Lord, just give me the grace and give me the power and just give me give me just the will. And I know we have our own will, so he's not going to make us do anything. But like, Lord, I want to have immediate obedience. And I feel like, I guess you still can call it delayed obedience, which is still disobedience, but it's like, I gradually obey. So it's like, okay, if God's like, okay, walk straight. It's like, I'll walk, but I'm like tiptoeing. So it's like, technically, I'm obeying, but I'm obeying, like, I'm doing the minimal, like, the bare minimum of obedience. And it's like, how dare I give God my bare minimum and I want exceedingly and abundantly from Him?
Mm.
If He says walk, walk and walk with confidence, what you tiptoeing for? You holding yourself up. He didn't say tiptoe,
Hey,
he said walk.
you know what? This is interesting because all I keep hearing is boundaries. You just said, your friend's husband, left his job. God told him to leave his job. But just think about, like you were saying, if he was delayed in doing so, the outcome that could have
It would have been
possibly
devastating.
absolutely. Or even in this, as you're saying, like your delayed obedience is still disobedience. But even in that, something is happening where something isn't getting done,
That
either for
part.
you or for somebody else. To an
That
extent.
part.
And so boundaries, they really run deep. I'm starting to feel like we may have to revisit this one day
Might have to do a
because
part three.
yeah, we may have to revisit this because I think that part of the reason that we aren't doing certain things is because we don't have certain parameters or boundaries in place so that we can prioritize the proper things. So if God
Mm,
is telling us to do something, We over here like, oh, okay. And we all willy-nilly, like I was saying, so busy for weeks in December. I was like, this ain't even cool. And my iron was low. So I was just like out of here for real. I'm like, man, at this point, I feel like I'm running on fumes. I'm so busy. But the truth of the matter is, could I have said no once? When I realized I was tired, instead of just going to bed and saying, I'm going to go to bed early because I got a long week for the rest of the week. Why didn't I just say, oh, I'm going to miss rehearsal this week, but I'll see y'all next week? Why didn't I say it? You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
say that to say, without boundaries, we really could be lacking in some areas, especially when God says to do it. And we don't want to miss whatever God is doing because He may need us at a specific point in time, not just for ourselves and the betterment of ourselves. It's kind of this is my personal thought. This is what I've been working on for myself. Not trying to project, but it comes out very selfish when it's like, well, I gotta do and I
Mhm.
gotta do and I gotta, and I. If I do this, it's for me, but it's never for us. Nothing that God tells us to do is ever for us. It's for His kingdom and it's
For
for
sure.
somebody else. But if we're not in place, something is not happening that is supposed to happen. And because of delayed obedience, everything else is delayed. We just had that delayed conversation. That should be a conversation too. We just had that conversation was that December? I think I had to talk about it
Mhm.
because it shook me up when he talked to me about it. And I won't go deep because I go off of boundaries. But I'm just saying, if we looked at it like that, with the godly perspective of, let me put this boundary up because God needs me to do X, Y, Z, and we're being obedient to what God is telling us personally, as well as according to His word, like you were saying earlier. Although Jesus come into the earth for us to set us free and to save us, that's complicated, almost death. But the simplicity of His life, He went to God, said He was going to go to the Father. He's going to do what the Father tells Him to do. Our lives would be much simpler. We wouldn't be so burned out. We wouldn't be so caught up with the cares of this world if we always went to God and said, God, what do you want me to do? And let me not do anything that you didn't put before me. Let me not be out of alignment with you, God. Because if I am, it's going to wear me down. And I'm going to ask God for His grace and His strength and all these things. And when you realize that you're asking for it, and you may have gotten it for a bit, but then you stop listening and you didn't move when He said move. And now you're out of alignment.
Just like that.
And you're saying, Lord, give me strength. Lord, help me to deal. Help me to regulate whatever the circumstances, regulate my emotions, to have a different perspective, renew my mind. Lord, help me to renew my mind. I'm going to read your word daily and I'm going to inhale and digest your word. And He's like, okay, amen. But this situation, I'm not blessing. I need you out.
Mm.
I don't need you sitting in and just pacifying yourself. I need you to move.
Sheesh, my lord.
Um, I mean, that's why I said I really didn't think. I knew that this was a conversation again because, I had a little interesting weekend, okay? Full of busyness and no time for myself. When I say none, the only time I had was laying on the bed, and somebody might say, well, since you had time, yeah, laying on the bed, trying to relax my mind and my body from a long weekend. Fun. I had a little bit of fun, but it was long and I was helping everybody and being present for everybody. And when I got done, all I could do was lay down and breathe. Thank you, Lord, for that. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the people I got a chance to see, hang out with, talk to, and all that, and serve. But it's just tiring to not breathe in between all these things, giving, giving, and giving, and giving, and giving. Boundaries. So I knew we needed to talk about this again, but I just didn't know how deep that was gonna go. And now my mind is still going like, Lord, you ain't playing around in this season. I got you. I got you good. What I wanted to do,
Okay.
I know because when I talk, I move, okay? But what I wanted to do, I know we deep in this thing, and I'm really just trying to allow the Lord to lead, so we're not abruptly cutting it off. But I wanted to give the definition of boundaries for anybody who may not know, and then I'm also going to give an example of what boundaries may sound like talking to people. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so boundaries are lines or limits that define where one thing ends and one begins. They
Hmm.
can be real or imagined, and they can be physical or conceptual. Okay. Now, we've been talking about serving and relationships with people and things like that. Oh, I did have an example. I'll try to throw that in there. An example of what you said about like people setting boundaries with you. And like if you were upset and things about it, I'm gonna throw something in. I can't be too detailed, but I'm gonna throw something in as a way that somebody set a boundary with me. I didn't realize it until you were speaking in the moment and how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
But they say boundaries, setting boundaries is a sign of self respect. It's important to communicate boundaries clearly and assertively. People who don't set boundaries for themselves may experience psychological consequences. Okay. We're not meant to take in everything and experience everything and be around everything and take everything, especially if at some point in your life you were abused in any way, shape, or form. Boundaries may be hard or tested. So some people, this is what I've noticed. Some people were abused and they slid into being more passive because they just didn't know how to handle certain circumstances or people. And so it's like, okay, sure, fine, whatever, because they may be scared to say or, speak their mind. But then you have
Mm-hmm.
others that may have been abused and they become more outspoken, like, no, you ain't finna do that. Like I've seen it several times. And I'm like, it used to be like, they doing a lot. But as I've grown, I understood what I was hearing is someone who's been harmed that don't want to be harmed again. And although
Mm-hmm.
it may not sound like what we think it should sound like, in those moments, especially when I was younger, I used to be like, okay, girl, calm down. But now I'm like, who hurt you? Like, who hurt you? Who did it?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you want to say those people, but you can't say them. Okay. If you're
No.
a professional, just don't even try to do all that. I'm not gonna get into it. Um,
Yeah.
but like in all honesty, they said no, I'm not going back there, which I agree with that to some degree. At least they know. Hold up, I can't do that. So I was watching this video on boundaries, and the lady said, you may need to establish boundaries if you're talking to someone or something happened and you notice that you're not feeling well about it. Like you're not feeling well about the conversation, you're not feeling well about the circumstances. It may be time for you to set boundaries. And when I think about those scenarios, that is absolutely true. We kind of miss that. We just kind of go, "Ooh, I didn't like that," but then we do it again, and it's like, no, set a boundary. So what I started doing when you were talking about the life group, just put
Mm-hmm.
it out there, and I'm gonna have to shut up in a second, and I'll give my examples in a moment to give you a moment as well if you want. But when you were talking about the life group, I set the boundary and I prayed a very specific prayer, and I don't let anybody, push me into this. But I said, Lord, this was my prayer. Lord, please shield me from any and everybody that wants to bring me a bone. I don't want to hear no gossip. Don't come to me. I don't care if it's about me. It's probably a lie. I don't care. Lord, shield me from it. It ain't got nothing to do with me. What people think about me, say about somebody else ain't got nothing to do with me. I've always been the kind of person that you could tell me whatever you want about somebody, it won't change how I look at them. They'd be like, all right, well, anyway. You'd be like, don't be friends with them because they blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to still say I'm going to go see for myself because I don't trust, like, why did you tell me something like that about whoever? Could have kept it to yourself. Sometimes it's just messy, but in all that, that's gossip and this slander. It's not pleasing to the Lord. Lord, I want nothing to do with it. So that was a boundary that I set, and I started to make sure the people around me knew that. Yeah, what we talking about this for? That was the question. Well, why? Why you want to bring me that? I don't want it. Change the subject. Not with that. I started making it very clear. Not over here. So that was setting a boundary and it was communicated clearly. If you don't communicate your boundary, then people they just gonna assume that you're down with whatever they give you. And you can become a trash can because of it. Girl, let me tell you what happened today. Let me tell you what happened between me and so every single day, and they just run you down. And before you know it, you start talking like, well, yeah, girl, well, since she got hers out, well, let me tell you about my day, girl. And you realize the conversation is short because they don't care about your day. They just want to make sure you received everything they said. Boundary.
Mm,
You're not a trash can.
good
You're a,
perspective.
I've been there years ago. I remember I had a friend, she was a coworker, and she would tell me everything. And I would be listening. And I'm like, I really like her. So I was like, girl, let me tell you about my day. Let me tell you what happened over the weekend. And sure enough, 5 minutes in, it was like, girl, hold on. Girl, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. Girl, I'm sorry. But I heard what you're saying, but I want to get this off my chest. It was like I couldn't receive the same respect I was given. So eventually I felt like a trash can, which means a boundary was put up. Honey, if all you can do is talk about yourself, I'm not your therapist. I could be a good friend to you. Good friends come with good therapy, I believe. But
Amen.
but I just still think we have to be
Got a lot of free hours out of my friendships.
that's what I'm saying. Free therapy, especially if you got some healthy friends or friends that are
That
trying
now
to
that
be
part, right? That's the
yeah,
gotcha right there.
yeah.
Are they godly and healthy sources
They got to be. Because my thing is
of advice?
you can love God, you can be saved and be going through it and be unhealthy for me and what I need in that moment. So I can't lean on you for that. I can love you, but I can't lean on you for what I need because the advice sometimes be like, what, Lord? No. Pray about it and keep on going. But when we have good, godly, healthy relationships, it helps us grow. And so, yeah,
Mm,
we just got to make sure we watch that. I was saying that to say, because I think that relationships is the first place boundaries are always tested because people feel entitled to you. They feel
mm.
entitled to your time. They feel entitled to your thoughts. They feel entitled to your presence. They feel entitled. Oh, I need a favor. Oh, but you ain't gonna do it. Then you ain't my friend. It's like, so you gonna, okay, try
I
to,
was your friend like 5 minutes ago until I said no.
right,
Literally, the basis of our friendship was my no or
that's
my
it.
yeses. And now that I'm saying no, this one time out of a million, we
Now,
not friends. Girl, we don't need to be need. We was never friends. If that's the case, like what?
yeah, and it's like the guilt trips that people want you to go on because they're dissatisfied with your no. It's like, come on now. I don't care if you really, really need it. You gotta know my heart. If I can't give it, I just can't.
Even Jesus, like they was mad at him when he was like, "I'm not gonna be with you always. I'm
Mm-hmm.
preparing y'all, like,
Like
cause I'm not always gonna be
this.
with y'all." No, Lord. Even Peter, he was like, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Like. No, I'm about to go back to my father in heaven. Y'all
You
gonna stay
better
here. I'm
see
gonna
that.
see y'all on the other side. you know,
Like my time is up. What you mean?
like what? So now you mad? Now you cussing and saying you don't know me? All right, cool.
Mm,
Like,
right. My goodness. Mm-mm-mm.
then what was
That's
our friend?
real.
Like, what was this based off of?
Right.
Your idea of me and your the box that you put me in, or was it based on
Mhm.
did you accept me for who I really was, who I've been telling y'all I was for the past 3 years, who you said I was, because you're the one who said you are the Christ. And
Mm.
he said, flesh and blood has not revealed this to you.
Oof.
You told me who you knew I was,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what everybody else was saying. So, homie, you knew this. And you was still acting brand new. But anyway, we all human.
Mm.
Yeah. But still, my point is like
Oh,
even Jesus, like, and I think like the more that we really study the life of Jesus and really like actually read
man,
the
that's the
Bible,
truth.
it's
That is
like,
the truth.
man, he really did go through like
Mm.
we really do have a high priest who cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities.
Literally.
Like, there's nothing that we can say, well, Jesus didn't experience that. Like, there's nothing that we can say that he hasn't felt or experienced.
Most definitely. I totally agree. And then God will point you back to Jesus every time. He is your earthly example of how to live out this life.
For
I
real.
remember
And it's
I
simple. And my
very simple.
pastor's mom says, like, the word is simple. Like the gospel is simple.
It really
It's not
is.
simple to live. It's not easy to live out, but it's still simple.
The
Like it's not
instruction.
complicated to understand. Now to live out, yeah, that can be a little difficult
It looked like a
at
scribble on the
times.
paper. You ain't just ascending, okay? It's a lot of scribbles. Okay.
Right. Like, okay, now if I turn it this way, okay, it might make sense. No, that still don't make sense. However, that's where faith comes in. God, this look like a lot of scribble scrabble. This look like a cartoon. When they used to scribble, in the cartoon, it was like they didn't have words. It was just jumbled up scribbles. Like, yeah, this look like cartoon scribble. But God, I trust you that you know what the scribble means, even if I don't. And I'm just gonna move forward and walk and not tiptoe and
Appreciate.
follow you.
No,
Amen.
most definitely.
Amen.
Most
This is good.
definitely.
I appreciate your thoughts and your perspective on this
No
topic.
problem. No problem. I just feel like it was necessary because sometimes, we can kind of talk about things with on a more surface level sometimes because of personal circumstances. But the truth of the matter is, when we start to realize exactly what something is, it makes a difference.
Yeah,
Definitions.
for sure.
This, even sometimes we may hear a word so many times and think we know exactly what it means. We think we know because, oh, it's, familiar. But then to look it up and to hear examples and to hear, how to um, literally apply boundaries to our lives, then it's like, oh, I was doing that wrong. Oh, when did that slip? I thought I was on. Okay. It's like, you
And
start
being
to
able to course correct quickly.
very quickly because the thing about God is that we have to be able to pivot quickly. So when he brings something to your attention, again, it's not, we don't have time for this, for delayed obedience. We don't, especially when it comes to our boundaries. We want to make
Amen.
sure that we're honoring God in everything that we do and that we're pleasing to him as well. But we just need to know what they are. So, real quick, before we head out, I just want to throw out what boundaries may sound like, um, because maybe we don't know.
Go for
Because
it.
um, I really didn't know. So if somebody asks you to do something that may seem like a big task, it's okay to be honest. One of the ways you could say that is, I'm not ready for that right now. Like, I appreciate you thinking about me, but after careful consideration and, prayer, I I can't do that at this time. Maybe in the future, just not right now. Or I don't feel comfortable with that.
Hmm.
I can come, but I have to leave by, when you go over someone's house or, what have you. It's like,
Hmm.
I'll be
You
there.
said you was leaving by 9. Now
Yeah.
you there till 1 o'clock tripping. No, you
You
gotta go to work in the
know,
morning.
I've done that. I've done it. Shame
Same.
on me, especially with my Uncle Paul. He will get my time, okay? Had me playing
Hmm.
dominoes for 5 hours straight.
Okay.
He
And
will
you
get
better
my
bring him some
time.
chicken too.
Every time. He gotta have him some chicken and chicken wings specifically. But
I love it.
you gotta know it because even when I said that, well, Uncle Paul is gonna get my time. Well, then I have to adjust my expectation. I know he's gonna get my time. So let me not be surprised when I'm over there playing dominoes for 5 hours. I don't see him all the time. I want to spend time with him. Then I have to make sure that I change my expectation for that if I'm going to do that. Right? But let's say I
Mm-hmm.
know in advance. Oh yeah, I got XYZ to do, or I just don't want to be over there that long anyway because I just can't be over there that long. 2, 3 hours. All right, I need to leave. Or like I saw one, and you've done this before, where someone is expecting some desserts or some food. You're like, I really can't make that. I really don't have the capacity this week to even do it. I'm gonna have to say no.
Girl, that was me Christmas. I was like, yeah, everybody not getting cookies. I don't. I gotta get back home. I'm exhausted because I ended up getting sick while I was there. While I was back in St. Louis, like I ended up getting sick because I was just ripping and running and trying to do everything.
Hmm.
And I was actually supposed to go see my aunt, and I had to call her, and I was like, "Sis, I'm not getting out this bed. Not because I don't want to, but my body is like, girl, no." And she was good. She was cool. Like, but
Hmm.
the fact that I was like, the old me would have been like, I don't want to disappoint her. I don't want her to be upset or feel like I'm ditching her. She was like, all right, Toots, like, it's okay. I'll see you tomorrow. I said, now tomorrow, I got you, sis. I got you.
See?
And I'm
And
going
it
to bring you
works
your
out.
Baja Blast. I got you.
Yeah, and
But
it works
today,
because you communicated that. Like, hey, I just ain't gonna be able to do it. I'm sorry.
and I, was, and also think it also when people see you, I think that also helps because she knew, it was like, I think it was the day after Christmas. Like she knew I had been wrapping gifts and I was cooking and I came in town. So I was like, we had my dad's party. It was like she knew all the stuff I was doing. So it was kind of like me saying that was almost kind of like, well, yeah, duh. Yeah, you need to rest. It was like she was on board with me, like, no, yeah, please get rest. Like, I don't even want you. It was always kind of like I got uninvited. Like, no, don't even come over. Like, just get rest, and we'll try this again tomorrow. And so I think that's another thing too when people see you, and I don't mean see physically, but you know what I mean. Like, they see you and they recognize they acknowledge you. Let me say it that
Hmm.
way. And it's like, you know what? I see, and I even will do this, and I actually, but people have actually got mad at me for doing this. Where I'd be like, hey, they're like, why didn't you ask me? And I said, well, I knew you had. So, say for instance, like I needed help with the kids or something when I used to serve at the church with the children, and I'm like, I need everybody to come help me spray paint these boards or whatever or these posters. Why you didn't ask me? Well, I knew you had already been here 3 days this week, so I was trying to be considerate and they would be like, no, but you need to let me make that choice. Like you made the choice for me, and it was like, oh, and so even like that, you know what I mean? Like I made the boundary for them that they didn't want. It's like, but you didn't even give me a chance to say yes or no. But my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm being considerate because you've been here 3 days in a row. Like I would figure you want to get rest, but but I was seeing her and acknowledging things, and so it was just like, let me not even, because to me, I felt like it would have been inconsiderate to ask. But it goes back to kind of what you were saying earlier is like that communication. Like, hey, I know you've been here. So that helped me to be able to communicate better. And so instead of saying, I'm not going to ask her, maybe saying, hey, I know that you've been here the last 3 nights. I'm just letting you know I am asking people to help with XYZ. You're more than welcome to come. However, I understand if you don't, and this is not a guilt trip, not in a guilt trip, like, well, if you can't make it, it's okay. Not like that, but like genuinely, like, but I wanted to give you the option if you wanted to be a part of this or not. But at the same time, I do recognize you've been here and you might want to use this time to rest. It's up to you. And like I said, some people use stuff like that to guilt trip people. Like, well, I know you're tired, but if you can come out or if you don't really have to, ain't they no good will you really want them to be there. But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying it in a genuine way. And so that even helped me like be communicate better instead of just kind of like taking that choice away from people. I don't know if we're still on boundaries, but anyway, getting back on track. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it still kind of all stems from boundaries. I actually was sitting here thinking, and this may be, I think boundaries is a good topic right now, because I'm learning as we're going, and I'm not just learning, but it's some of the things I already
Same.
knew, and it's time to put those things into active practice. And
Yeah.
not just to know it, but to apply. It's just like when we read the word, we can't just be hearers, but we have to be doers as well. We have to do. We can't just be
Amen.
like, yeah, I read that thing. I read it. Yep. I was in, this book, that chapter. Yeah, girl. And then walk away and just forget everything you read and don't apply it to your life. It matters. Everything matters. But
Like I read the manual that says don't put this near water. And then it's like toot toot toot. It's like
Mhm.
then you wondering why you didn't started a whole electrical fire or a serious situation.
Yeah.
It's like you read it, but you didn't do what they told you to do or not do.
Yeah. And then you said, "Oh,
Now
I'm
you
do the
wondering why
opposite
the fire department's at your house.
because you had to go see for yourself."
I said that to somebody earlier. I forgot who I was talking to. I was like, or maybe it was yesterday at work. And I was like, I, I don't need to like I've learned a lot from other watching other
Oh,
people
absolutely.
that I'm like, you know what? I, no, I don't need to learn that lesson. I learned that lesson for them. Like with them. Like we all learned together. Like don't do that. So I was like certain things, I was like, Lord, I don't need you to make an example out of me. I don't need you to tell me twice. I don't actually need you to tell me at all. I've seen the consequences of this action. So I'm gonna go ahead and just be obedient and do what I'm supposed to do and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. For shizzle, you know what? I gotta throw this out here. Um, for those that may be struggling with the right words, that may be struggling to be assertive or passive, in their communication of their boundaries. Because I know we wrapping up. This our third closing. But let me say this. Your voice matters. If you don't give
Yes.
yourself the voice that you think somebody took from you, you got to take your voice back and you have to use it. So if that takes you standing in the mirror saying it 50 times for you to believe yourself before you
Mhm.
believe that anybody else will, then you must do that. Now, the reason why I say that is because I have more examples and I'm going to be light, but I never want anyone that if you got to this point, you've enjoyed it so far or something, okay? Because it's lengthy out here, but it's necessary. If you find yourself being anxious or overwhelmed in the moment of having to tell somebody no, take a breath and think about how you felt when you did it the last time. You said yes and you paid for it. Think about
Mm.
every single time you felt overwhelmed with emotion of whatever sort, because everybody is different, and you went to, say, hey, I'm sorry, I won't make it, and you compromised again. Instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it, you said, I mean, I can see what I can do. No, don't do that no more. You just can't. You can't do it. You can't afford to do it. It's going to cost you every single time. And after you get done paying the price, then you're going to have to heal from every single time you've paid that price because now you don't trust yourself.
Mm.
Now, I say that to say, and that wasn't even what I was going to say. So that came for somebody. I don't know, but that's not what I was going to say at all. But I'm being real about it. You will always pay the price. The other party won't pay this price for you because they're not the ones saying, "Give me your boundary. Let me step on it." They're not saying that. They don't see your boundary because you haven't made it clear that you have one. So, this is an example. Instead of saying, maybe it may be possible, or I'll let you know, just say, sorry, I can't make it. Mm-mm. I can't make it. Some people will try you. They'll come back with the, are you sure? Somebody did that to me about going to a funeral. I was at and I'm giving a quick example and I'll go back to this. But just to give you an example of how people will try you. You gotta stick to your guns. Be assertive. Your guns. But you gotta stick to your boundary. Don't pay the cost. But I was at an event and I was asked to sing. And I said, well, I have to be going by this time because I have a funeral to go to. And the response I got back is, you can't stay a little later? I said, I have a funeral to go to. I have to leave by this time. But I mean, you can't give us another 30 minutes? If I give you another 30 minutes, knowing that most likely I had to go make some runs prior to, right? Then I won't make it. But are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. I'm very sure, and I'm not moving from that. Just not gonna do it.
So like a funeral's not like a it's a one time thing. It's not like, oh, you can catch the next time. Like, no,
Yeah,
like this is a one
yeah,
time thing.
yeah.
Like
But
it's not like you going to
I
a
can't.
concert, like a church concert where they do this all the time. Like
Yeah,
they only gonna put the person in the ground once. Like, come on now.
right. And it's like I've already given you my yes for the time frame you told me to make adjustments to be there for the time frame you gave me, and I'm here, and I'm sitting around, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and then you want to push me back. I made good on my yes, but then you didn't apply. You didn't, make sure that you actually kept your time frame. You didn't keep that slot. You pushed it back without consideration of the people that are there to support because of the request. So anywho, I just said that was the thing that was a circumstance that came to my mind about how people will try to step over your boundary when you said, hey, no, I can't do that. Not today. Not today. I won't be able to do that. Stick to it. Don't bend. Don't, oh, I'm going to see if I can make that work. Don't do it. Because if you compromise one time, you're going to have to keep doing it. And not
Mm,
you have to keep doing it because you don't have to keep doing nothing. But the expectancy from the other party is that you'll keep doing it if they ask. Well, just keep
mm,
asking. Just challenge them on it. They'll bend. No, don't. Do it for you. The other one is I have a lot on my plate, but sure, I'll help you. No, you don't have capacity. You can't help anybody. So what you could say is, I'm busy and I can't help you right now. If you want to throw a sorry in there, please let it come from your heart. Otherwise, stop apologizing. It just is what it is. You just can't do it. Or like sometimes we'll say stuff like, in other words, like I was saying about like, I don't want to gossip. Don't bring that to me. You can set the boundary. I'm not going to discuss that with you, especially about your own personal life. When it comes to my dating life, the only people who needs to know it, because I made that mistake before, I will never make that mistake again. The only people that need to know it ultimately it's me.
That
I
part.
choose who I
That
want
part.
to share it with. That's my business. That's my prerogative. So if I ask a general question, I did this one day. I asked a general question to someone just for an older perspective. And I got, but when this happened, where did this happen? Who is it? And I was like, and I just backed all the way up. I gave it so general that it didn't matter who it was. And so I was like, I'm not going to discuss that with you. You can set boundaries with people. You got to protect your peace. Don't pay the cost allowing people, and this goes so far, but don't pay the cost allowing people into spaces they don't belong in.
My
So
God.
I digress on that. I hope that resonates with someone, but I will say this. I know that we most likely, because we can keep going with this one because I have so much more, but this is what came to me when you were talking, and then I'm going to shut up for real. I
Good.
followed the trail of boundaries, from boundaries to discipline to self control.
Mm,
And self control is a fruit of the Holy Spirit.
mm. Amen.
We must, we must have self control. Part of that is boundaries. Self control is not for the times where you want to, just do the worst thing ever according to whoever it is, because everybody works ain't the same. But self control is not just for that. Self control is in those small moments. So they had an example on here that said, oh, well, maybe I can just have one more drink. I ain't saying go drink, but this is just an example. The turnaround for that would be, no thanks, I've had enough. It's just like food. And I
Yeah, I
always,
was just gonna say, even with food,
yeah, it's like
would
the
you like some
button.
dessert? You know you full.
No, you about to just topple
You,
over. You
it's
know
like,
you're
oh, it's
going to
just a
fall
little
asleep at the
cake.
wheel.
It's just a little 99 or $1.99 cake. It's like, no,
It don't
you
matter.
full. You got a to-go plate right now. Why are you getting more food? You're full.
You're absolutely.
You can even finish the food you just had.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I felt that one.
Nope,
That
nope.
one was for me.
Hey,
Because dessert is
no.
hard to turn down, especially
Dessert
if
is
you're at a good
always hard.
restaurant. You
Yeah.
know that dessert be fi-fi.
But that's the part. You know it's 5-5. Now, if you don't know, then you're just trying to finding out that you don't like it. But if you know they got your favorite and you know you just full,
And
saying
you
no
got that
thanks.
server who know you and they know how you like your stuff. They
Like,
gonna
yeah,
hook it up.
girl. Girl, you
Like,
want that
no,
red velvet cheesecake again?
no. Or do you want that buy one get one from nothing but cakes that people be sitting to me? I'm like, no. Why
She
would you
talking
do this
about
to
me.
me?
She was really trying to cover me
She stayed be sending me buy one get one coupons. And
up.
then the funny thing is, now that I've seen one here, I see them everywhere now. I'm like, these was not here 2 years ago when I moved here. Cause I'm like, I literally have seen like at least four of them. And I want to say it's one in the outlets by my house where the Shake Shack is. But I'm like, I know it's one by my job. I know at least three locations now. And I'm like, this is stupid. No. No.
Part
I'm
of
like,
the reason for that is because we would get nothing but cakes for our like Sunday dinners and stuff.
yeah,
And which was good.
man.
Nothing
And
wrong
that
with that.
and the ice cream be just setting it off. See, okay,
Every time.
this is why I'm
Every
detoxing
time.
right now. This is why I'm doing a juice detox. Cause no,
Yeah. Don't let me get into it because when I tell you, for anybody listening, I'm just plugging this. That banana pudding cake is not worth it. Don't go over there. It's not worth it. If you know some real good banana pudding, like you done had some real good, don't expect that in that cake. Don't expect it. And I got a problem with cookies on cake. Mm-mm. They gotta be
yeah,
a
I'm
little
not a
soggy or
fan.
something. I don't need no crispy cookie on no soft cake. I'm good. I ain't like that.
Mhm.
But anywho,
Yes,
tastes
let's
like
see. All right, we done went down the road of cake.
that's why I said
Okay, and we back.
insane. No, but thank y'all for taking the time. If you've made it this far, it's so greatly appreciated. This conversation about boundaries, I've been just going through this myself, and it just kind of came up, and I'm like, I know I can't be the only one.
You're
At
not.
at I was about to say my age. I don't know if I want to go there yet, but at this old age of
Your
mine,
no, your medium
my
age.
medium age, there you go. My medium age, I am learning to really hone in and put boundaries in place during this season. And
Amen.
so I just want to be transparent and share it with somebody else because this is not something that I grew up if we ain't talked about personal lives or nothing yet, but boundaries was not a thing in my house. It never was. If anything, boundaries were I mean, they were non existent for pretty much everybody. And
I was gonna say,
so,
I think that's actually most melanated homes for sure.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
You
because
don't
let
have a
me get
door. You
started.
don't have any privacy. You don't have any. Everything here is mine. You don't own anything.
Oh, that's the baby way of saying it. Because what I was gonna say was much darker, but yeah,
Mhm. Oh,
um,
that too.
yeah,
Emotional boundaries,
oh yeah,
all the things.
all the
Physical
things.
boundaries. I had share room. You know, you got to share room with your siblings. Like it was a lot.
Yeah, and even with that, I didn't mind, sharing
Yeah,
rooms
same.
and things,
Yeah, we
but
had good
it's just,
times. Good times.
yeah, but it's just some things that was not taught that I would make sure that my kids are taught. Lord's will,
Yeah.
if the Lord blesses, I just want to make sure I'm responsible to raise who God is expecting me to raise. I may not know who He gonna bless me with coming out this body, but the
Yeah.
desire is that whatever I put into him is will glorify God. To say, Lord, I did what you asked me to do, and now that he's of age, he is weaned off, and I say he's because that's what I believe. I believe God for boys, but he's out and he's his, and so that's my desire is to make sure that they're not unequipped, but they are fully
Yeah.
equipped. And everything I know, they will know as well. No neglect here. But yeah, no, thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any stories again that you want to share, I did not get to my story about the time where someone set a boundary with me and I didn't like it. But maybe next time when I can really tell that. But yes, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for taking the time. I hope that this was enjoyable for you guys as well. Please comment, any circumstances that you've, ran into or, anything that you've learned as well that could definitely help anybody who may read it, including us. But thank y'all. Comment, like, share, subscribe. We love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Until next time.